The first tear fell into her wineglass just as the orchestra swelled, and no one noticed. That was the cruelest part. In a room filled with applause, crystal chandeliers, and people dressed like they had conquered the world, she had never felt more invisible. And on the other side of the ballroom, a man who believed his life was already broken beyond repair was about to make a choice that would quietly change both of their lives forever. Daniel Brooks hadn't planned to be at the gala. At 41, his world revolved around school lunches, bedtime stories, and keeping promises to a little girl who had already lost her mother too soon. Being a single father wasn't something he wore like a badge of honor, it was something he survived one exhausted day at a time. He worked 2 jobs, barely slept, and carried guilt like a second shadow. Guilt for the nights he was too tired to listen. Guilt for the moments he snapped when patience ran thin. Guilt for not being enough. The gala was supposed to be simple. His cousin managed catering and begged him to help for one evening. "It's just serving tables," she said. "Easy money." Daniel agreed because easy money meant piano lessons stayed paid for another month. So he put on a borrowed suit that didn't quite fit and told his daughter he'd be home before midnight. He crossed his heart when he said it. That's when he saw her. She sat alone at a table meant for 10, surrounded by empty chairs and half-finished conversations. Elena Hart, though Daniel didn't know her name yet, looked composed from a distance, perfect posture, elegant navy dress, hair styled with precision. But up close, her hands trembled. Her smile appeared only when someone passed by, then disappeared the second they were gone. Her eyes carried the kind of sadness that didn't belong in a room like this. Elena had built an empire by the age of 36. She was the CEO of Heartfelt Industries, the very company hosting the gala. The speeches tonight praised her vision, her discipline, her brilliance. None of them mentioned the cost. None of them talked about the years of choosing boardrooms over birthdays, contracts over companionship, ambition over rest. Tonight, as applause echoed for her success, the weight of her loneliness finally broke through. Daniel noticed her wiping her eyes with the corner of her napkin. He stopped walking. He told himself it wasn't his place. People like her didn't need comfort from people like him. He was just the help, just passing through. But then he thought of his daughter crying quietly into her pillow at night, trying to be brave when she thought he couldn't hear. He remembered how silence can hurt more than words. So he walked over. He didn't ask questions. He didn't introduce himself. He simply placed a clean napkin gently on the table and said, softly, "Hey, it's okay. Sometimes we all just need someone to sit nearby for a minute." Elena looked up, startled. For a second, she seemed embarrassed, then something in his voice broke through her defenses. She nodded. Daniel sat in the empty chair beside her. Not too close, not too far. They didn't speak right away. The music filled the space where words usually failed. After a while, Elena whispered, "Everyone here thinks I have everything." Her voice cracked. "But I've never felt so alone." Daniel swallowed. "My daughter thinks I'm the strongest man in the world," he replied. "Truth is, I cry in my car so she won't see." Elena let out a quiet, broken laugh. It was the first real sound she'd made all evening. They talked then, not about business or money or success, but about exhaustion, regret, and the fear of disappointing the people who depend on you. Elena admitted she didn't know who she was without her job. Daniel admitted he was terrified of failing the one person who mattered most. The biggest challenge they both faced wasn't money or status, it was loneliness disguised as strength. When a board member approached Elena, Daniel stood up immediately, apologizing for intruding. But she reached out and lightly touched his sleeve. "Thank you," she said, "for sitting." That should have been the end of it. But life rarely changes in loud, dramatic moments. It changes quietly. 2 weeks later, Daniel was called into a downtown office building he could barely pronounce. He assumed there had been a mistake. When Elena walked in, no longer the lonely woman at the gala but the confident CEO everyone feared and admired, his heart sank. He worried he'd crossed a line. That his kindness had been inappropriate. Instead, she smiled. She offered him a position, not charity, not pity, but opportunity. Flexible hours, fair pay, a role created for someone who understood people, not just numbers. "I don't need another executive," she told him. "I need leaders with empathy." Daniel hesitated. He didn't trust good fortune. Life had taught him to expect disappointment. But then he thought of his daughter's piano lessons. Her smile, her future. He accepted. The road wasn't easy. Elena faced resistance for changing company culture. Daniel struggled with self-doubt, convinced he didn't belong in rooms with glass walls and city views. They both stumbled. They both failed. But they didn't face it alone anymore. Over time, respect grew into friendship. Friendship into something deeper. Not rushed. Not forced. Built on understanding rather than illusion. Years later, at another gala, smaller, quieter, Daniel watched his daughter play the piano on stage while Elena sat beside him, her hand resting gently over his. The applause this time felt different. It wasn't for success. It was for survival, growth, and choosing kindness when no one was watching. Daniel leaned over and whispered, "Funny how 1 minute can change everything." Elena smiled. "Only if someone chooses to stay." And the message lingered long after the lights dimmed. You never know who you're helping when you offer simple kindness. Sometimes, the moment you choose compassion is the moment your life begins to change.